This is the kind of stuff I have to do to stay on social media since it's all banned. And you know the greatest thing about this is they're gonna see the pork adobo recipe in my YouTube video, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, bro, that was like 2 months ago when he videoed this." 2-month post edit. Nah. We're full. Oh, you're so funny. Whack that right on there. You got jokes, huh? Our billet right now, and so what we're trying to do is with this Bowie style knife, the longer you make this ramp right here, because this is the back side of the knife, the longer you make that, that will be the definition of how long this clip will be. You know what I'm saying? So the length that you make this will be the length of this. So it's always, people just feel like they're forging a point that way, but this actually determines the length of this clip, the clip point in your Bowie. So that's kind of what we're showing. It's not just forging a point, you're actually forging that clip in. So when you do it right, and you have this like this, and then you forge down here, it will create that curve up, and then you will finish with a big old Bowie knife. Oh, whoopsie. Oh. When you drop a knife on, it's floor on fire, not forge on fire. So what's happening is this shop is solar. So everything from this half is all on solar, it's off grid. So this machine runs on a generator, and my big generator is broken. So guess what? That's why we're doing this shit by hand. It's fine. But you gotta bring the the cooperate with me hammer. See? Cooperation. Now that's a big Bowie knife. Nah, it'll be a moderate size one. I'll leave this one a little bit thicker because it's Damascus and I gotta make sure I grind through all the inclusions. Like if I'm forging a knife that's gonna be brute to forge, like you definitely can forge like, where's my knife? You definitely can forge a lot closer to shape. That doesn't mean that, like, see this knife? It's like forged to shape, so you can go really, really thin with it. Sometimes if you don't grind, when you're grinding the like the brute to forge off of it, and you can't get all the way through it, you'll get like decarb or whatever, and it will show in the etch. You got to make sure you can grind enough clean steel off of it to make sure that when you etching it's proper. That's not mean that you're going to be lazy and you're going to leave it like super thick and just stock removal it, but I've done it. I've had to do it in the past, you know what I mean? And it's like, and it always comes out really clean. Like you want to leave yourself just enough to grind off, not so close where you're like can't make a mistake, but you leave it fairly thicker, but you're still forging in all your bevels, so you're not just stock removing and grinding all day. But you want to forge the bevel in, leave it a little bit thicker so you have grinding room, so that your knife, you know, we're making a Bowie knife, we're not trying to make like a chef knife, so it's going to have some weight, some forward weight. It's going to have some spine thickness, so we're going to leave this a lot thicker than what I would typically do, but in a mono steel because it's Damascus. So now we're gonna pull down that clip. Where's my hammer? Oh, we're gonna pull down the cutting edge now, just so I can start getting my width, and right here. So see how now it looked like it was going the wrong way this whole time, and then now it went back. So the whole time it looked like almost like a Viking sax. It was aimed down, and then as soon as I forged that bevel, it curved it up. Look at Adrian. Look at that whip daddy. I hope you got that on camera. Whip daddy. That's with his hook. Oh my God, that was classic. That's how you make a Bowie knife. Oh, now that's a Bowie knife. So, on today's, I'm gonna take this out of my ear. So this is the Bowie that we roughed out and forged pretty thick so that we can grind off. I mean, it's still forged to shape, but we're gonna grind off some of it and clean it up before a heat treat. I like to grind all the brute to forge off since I'm not gonna have any brute to forge on here. So that I can test etch it, make sure that my pattern's okay and all that stuff, and then you know, and I want this Bowie to kind of be a classic. It was funny because I used to only do really rustic knives, and I still do, but I didn't do like the real clean work that everybody did. And when I worked with Mareko Mamasi, he told me, wouldn't it be nice if you could do both? Like, you already know you could do the rustic stuff. And so everyone's, you know, so I like to do both. And I spend a lot of time like trying to figure out how to do those, because I used to just always hide behind forging and my grinding always sucked. You know what I mean? And so I was able to, because of Mareko Mamasi, grind really clean and do really clean work. Whereas before, I never really cared so much because I wanted the really high texture, high visual, like very rustic, very antique looking knives. And so every once in a while I like to do some really clean work, and so this is what we're going to do with this. Okay, so first thing I do is I grab an old belt to profile. I don't want to use a brand new belt to profile this knife because it's just going to break all that fresh teeth. I want the fresh teeth to be grabbing all this scale, so we're going to profile with this old belt. So now I'm gonna grind the initial bevel in here. Not too thin where it's gonna get like, you know, f***ed up in heat treat, but we're gonna just grind this thing clean. And I don't start by grinding it flat because I figure I'll just grind the bevel first, which is the bulk of it, and then I really got not that much left to flatten out. Kind of roughed in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like basically I still got some parts that have some scale, but I'm gonna actually instead of chasing that and keep making this thinner, I'm gonna run my fuller in here now, because that's pretty much all where this inclusion is where the fuller is, and then I'll figure that out next. You know what I mean? So let's rough in that fuller. As you can tell, I make a lot of like marks to make sure I'm really accurate. I don't even make any. I should probably make some layout marks, but f it, we just eyeball it. It's not doing the one side, it's making the other side match. So don't clap your hands too quickly. So now it's pretty close, and we did grind out a lot of those inclusions. So now I'm going to flat grind this to get all this bullshit straightened out and all this bullshit straightened out. And then I'll grind this bottom half again for the last time, and then run the fuller again one more time. And then we are good. But that's what I'm saying is, like, instead of chasing all of these little spots and keep making the knife thinner, if you know you're gonna fuller it, just leave it. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Now we're gonna grind this clip in. Then I'm gonna rough this back in one more time, just because it moved a little. I'll light this now. Let's go see how we did. Roughed out.
Oh, damn.
Let's just put in some really strong acid and see what it looks like. I don't even remember what this pattern looks like. Wow. Whoa, weird. Wild. That's cool. So, one of the reasons why I use this kiln to heat treat my knives, and we'll talk about that. I don't feel like if you have a lot of experience, you should heat treat from a forge, especially if you have a top firing forge. Because if you have a top firing forge, what happens is just shooting right on the knife. And so even if you're holding it and going in and coming out, you're double burning the tip and the thinnest parts. And that creates like a really hot point. And that's why your knives, the tips will break off or whatever like that, right? And the grain structure gets all blown up. The way that this forge is designed, you see how the jets come in from the side and it rolls, and it's super consistent. I've had tests done on this forge from the back to the front, and it's super consistent. And Peter Schwartzberg built me this forge, and it's excellent. But the main reason why I use a forge to heat treat is because I'm impatient and I don't want to wait for the electric one to heat up. But also, like, it's just efficient, you know what I mean? So we have a thermostat that's right next to the blade telling me my temperature, so the internal temperature of the forge never goes over the desired number that I want. But with that being said, I really enjoy the fact that the knife is hardened with fire versus like an oven. I'm not I've done so much tests with this to know that this does a great job. If you do have a top firing forge that just shoots straight on the knife, don't try and put it on the side of it. Don't try and do anything. Go get yourself an exhaust pipe, like a 3-inch exhaust pipe, and put it in the forge so that the top firing forge is hitting the top of the exhaust pipe, and then put your knife in there and move it back and forth and block up your forge with fire brick, and then you can get a really good heat treat that way. You know what I'm talking about, with like an exhaust pipe, and you just slide it in the forge, it's open from both ends, and when that thing hits the pipe, it will gradually heat all the atmosphere to the correct temperature. And buy yourself one of these internal temperature gauges. They're super cheap. It's like $79 on Amazon or something like that, but you gotta get the one that's a type K because it goes over 2,000 degrees or whatever, over 2,000 degrees. But with that being said, this is the style I like to heat treat knives. I started out with the top firing thing, and I used to put the exhaust pipe in there and run my knives in and out of there, and you just don't want to set it down inside that pipe. Like, you want to be able to move it in and out, heat the back up first, flip it around, heat the thing up. I mean, that was one of the hard issues with Forge and Fire when I was on Forge and Fire, is as studio lighting, you know? And so if you think a knife is orange in studio lighting, it's 300 to 400 degrees hotter than what it actually should be. And so that's why I was one of the few people in Forge and Fire to create one of these, where you put the knife back in the shadows so you can see its true color. That's what this is for. Is if I need to test something's color, I can put it back in here, way back in this shadow, and see the true color of what it is, even in full lighting. Shadow box. Yeah, I mean, bro, it's just a smart way to do stuff, you know? There's a lot of things that are happening, you know, with... So when I was forging this knife, what I did was, after I straightened it and tippy-tapped it, is I shut my forge off and I would put it in there, slowly heat up with the residual temperature, pull it out, turn the forge back on, and then let my knife slowly cool and kind of tippy-tap it and straighten it and, you know, look at it a little bit. Then I would put it back in, shut the forge off, and let it come back up to normalizing temp again, pull it out, and let it cool and let the forge heat up again. And then I would do that 3 times so that I've already reduced my grain structure, so it's easy to drill, easy to grind, all those things. And the grain structure is tight. So now that the knife is all grinded, I can just come in here, bring it up to temp, don't overheat it so that my grain structure gets ruined. Just keep it at the right temperature, and then soak it for X amount of time, and heat treat it. With that being said, like, there's a lot of, I'm not an expert in it. I know what works for me. I've done tests. If you don't know, you don't need to know everything about metallurgy, but what you do need as a responsibility as a professional maker, or even an amateur maker, is you want to do your heat treat on a couple pieces of steel and then snap them and look at your grain structure. You don't have to spend a lot of time on them. You can just rough grind some 3 basics, exactly the same shape, heat treat them a few different ways, and then you find that, oh, this one's the best. And then from that point, then you do that heat treat, and then you find the right temper that works for you, and then you go take it outside, you beat it on an antler, you beat it on some 2x4s, you check the edge retention, you do all the things, and then you make notes of it, and that's your process. You don't need to know. That's why I don't jump around with a lot of different steels. I don't jump around and use this steel and that steel and this steel. I stick with 80 series steel or 10 series steel. So I use 1075, 1080, 1084. I do not use 1095. And then my other steel that I use, mainly all my Brute to Forge stuff, is 80 CRV too. I know that steel very well. I know that heat treat, and I know that it will perform because I know how to use those. And that is my rant for today. No, but you know what I mean? I think people overwhelm themselves with, like, I need to know everything about metallurgy, or they don't give a fuck and they don't know nothing about metallurgy. They're like, oh, I heat them up to orange and then I toss them in an oven. And I'm like, bro, you gotta at least know a little bit, but you gotta know at least know the steel that you're working in. Know what oil works for it, what works for you. I don't care if you're only using canola oil to quench, I don't care. You just gotta know that when you do your process, you can go outside and beat on it reliable, and it survives, you know? It'd be funny if it cracked, and then end of episode. And that's that. No way, I would leave it. I would be like, whoops, my bad. So this took a little bit of a warp, little bit, but we'll straighten it later. So the way I grind this bevel is I grind it short, steeper, till I get to the thickness that I want, and then I'll grind it a little higher and a little higher and a little higher until it blends in with this upper spot. I don't try and grind just the whole thing. I grind it in little sections like this, then like that. And then you're only taking off like this much material at a time versus trying to grind a huge flat spot. If you're trying to grind a huge flat spot, there's a lot of surface per square inch pressure that you have to apply, and it wears on the machine pretty hard, and it wears on the belts pretty hard. But if you're actually only taking like a 1/4 inch grinding like this at a time, and a 1/4 inch up and a 1/4 inch out, it actually goes a lot faster. I ended up not liking this plunge line, the way it transitioned into this. And so I'm gonna grind it like a wakizashi or a katana where there's no plunge line. And so it just rolls right into the tang. So the tang won't be square anymore or rectangle anymore, but I think it looks a lot cleaner than having a plunge line. Just one line. There's just this ugly line right there that just didn't make any sense. So I grinded it off. Is it gonna make it challenging for us down the road? Yes, but that's okay. Oh, this thing is badass. Let's see what Adrian thinks. What do you think? Look, I grind the plunge line off like a katana. It's gonna make it harder for me to do the guard, but it just looks cleaner. That added line was just odd. It just looked weird. I just simplified it. There's a lot of lines going on, so when you can take one line that's going in the opposite direction out, it looks crazy when I'm grinding it. And it just looks like a mess when I'm just like hogging the shit off, and then just like beep boop.
It's like
Done.
weight, too.
Priceless. Well, let's etch it and see where we're at. Oof. I already can tell. Yikes. For now, I don't see any cracks. Do you remember that I'm like on the fence because I was gonna do a straight handle like I was gonna show you,
Yeah.
but I'm like on the fence of, do you remember that Bowie knife I made for Hans? The personal one I made for him? It was the 80 CRV and it had like the black with the silver and then it had that crazy big ass antler handle on it.
That one? Okay.
Yeah. Remember how I did that one?
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this one would look good like that. And not do a full frame. Like I feel if I do a full frame, it's just gonna be the same. But I think I've done antler on the last, 3 knives I've done. I should probably put a wood handle on something.
You can put a guard on there too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna put a guard on there, but it's. I just don't know if a straight handle matches that knife now that I'm like. But I don't want to really do an antler knife because I've done a fucking gazillion antler knives. Right? What was the last one I did was an antler knife? Something else was an antler knife. Okay, you know what I should do with this one? Is just put a brass. No, I should. A brass or a copper guard. I don't think I have a thick enough copper. But if I did a brass guard or a copper guard, and then just straight to caramel Westinghouse handle. A whole block smoked on this thing. I mean, I did that other one and then I did, dude, it's just too much antler stuff I've been doing. I don't know, my friend. We'll find out. Or just put a fucking antler on it. I don't know. What do you think? Or maybe I should do a leather stack. No. Maybe I should do a Skegel. Just be like, what's up, Skegel boys? I really don't want it to be. It's just I've done a lot of the same thing on YouTube, so we gotta change it up. And I thought, I mean, I guess I could do a false frame. Where's that drawing that I had? But, I don't know. False frame. But now that I've tapered this thing, the false frame is gonna be almost the most irritatingest thing to do in the world. Because the front will be smaller than the back. You know what I'm saying? Right. Yeah. We're gonna do either Westy or I do have this weird Westy that's I don't know, I got all kinds of stuff. Take like this $250 block. Oh no, this is single line. Hell no, I ain't doing that. Oh, we should do it with this. Look at this one. It's got all the lines in it. This is Westinghouse sandwich. This is $500. Come, just throw them on, man. Let me throw this fat block on there. Whatever this is. I don't know. What is this block? This block looks like wood. Okay. We'll figure it out tomorrow. It's lift weights time, Dane. Come on, put your jorts on and your cool shoes.